Okay. You don't know the power of the blue side. No! Blue! Yeah, I just had to recall, yeah. I don't think I want to see The Empire Strikes Back at Odeon bh2 next week in screen number 10 because I will not be able to tolerate that blue tint colour that they did to the snow and made that snow white and then tinted it kind of blue. So that's a reason why I couldn't care less about seeing The Empire Strikes Back at the Odeon next week. I will not tolerate that colour change. Anyone else? Yeah, well, we're all aware of it. So, Star Wars originals on Laserdisc, flashback, 97 versions, and the two and the DVD and the other whatever blue, whatever 4K blue tint color. No, I'm not tolerating that. I'm not tolerating that color change. So that they can keep it. So I'd imagine screen 10. I think it's almost. I think it's a maybe. I'm not sure. Let me just check. This is, screen number 9 is about 300, 330, 320 or 330 seat. There was only about 45 people in there last night, roughly what I can count. That's not that's not good now, is it? See. See if it's got any information here. Huh. Well, I don't know. Maybe I misread the information on screen number 9 last night, but hang on. Let's have a look at this. My bear cat's been very, very depressed. He's doing very strange things. He's a little bit. He's doing things at the moment, and he'll settle in, and then he'll settle down. Okay. Can I see more option here? Okie dokie. Right. Hang on. Screen 9. All right. Hang on. Getting some information here. Oh, screen 9. Screen 9's 263 seats. 263. And there was only around roughly about well, what I could count, about 45 people in there last night. It wasn't very full. Screen number 10 is 330 seats. And I doubt that would be full to capacity. I think at the most next week for the Empire Strikes Back, it wouldn't even be half full. It wouldn't even be half full. It'd be less than that. Because simply no one really cares about these Star Wars movies. No one cares. Now, the cinema's got capability. They could actually rig a laserdisc player up if they wanted to. There's no excuse. There's no they couldn't find an excuse. It is very feasible, and they could show, but they couldn't because then they'll have Disney coming down on them. Like, well, that's providing if they keep it shh. But if the word got out, they'll come down on them like a ton of bricks. It's bullshit, really. No one cares. Nobody cares for Star Wars originals if they're on 4K. They are not the originals. You're not going to get a flashback there. For anyone that's new generation, they wouldn't have a clue. Just if I was the new generation, I wouldn't have a clue. And so, anyway, it's a pass next week. I'm not even bother going. I'm not even curious how wide the stereo width or whatever is. I couldn't care less if they played a Dolby Atmos version. Couldn't care less because it's not gonna be. It'll be like last night, and I have to get it from a 90%. I'd have to take that down a little bit lower, down into about 80% because the actual kind of presentation or the effort that Odeon was very poor. It was very poor effort, no excuse, and they got all this technology bullshit, and they couldn't even have a technician there that's probably in maybe in their well, he would have to be in his it'd have to be in his 50s at least. And I don't think they would have a technician there that, that would say, "Gosh, I remember," and he could do some improvement because the surround speaker sounded like that compared to the LCR. It was appalling. It was absolutely no excuse for it. No excuse. It's far better in my THX cinema. So I might as well just go in my THX cinema maybe next month when I'm uh, maybe ready to go back in the room. Um, but yeah, it was absolutely atrocious last night. It was like, yeah, okay. I'm getting a little flashback now and then, but not entirely because the whole film mix itself has been completely remixed for, the 5.1 or 7.1 or whatever. So there's only proportions of it that are, and other proportions that aren't. Um, so even though it wasn't expensive, it was only about, I think it cost £11. £11 to see that last night. I think I'm not sure if that would be a little bit less than buying it on streaming, the crappy streaming version. Renting it, not sure what that would cost. I didn't have to Google it. Anyway, it was crap. It was okay, but in most big proportion, it was crap. And I would say it's not like every other YouTuber that keeps blabbing on the word home theater experience. I hardly use that word because I choose not to, because it's just bad vocabulary just to keep repeating experience, experience, Most of these YouTubers wouldn't have a clue about experience. They couldn't even look that word up in the dictionary. My cat's got bloody better experience than most of these home theatre people that blab on about Dolby Atmos. Uh, the Atmos speakers was an experience like I've never heard. Well, then, improve your home theatre then, or maybe you don't, maybe you haven't got the technique. Because I've done projection, so I've got a bit of skill down that end, a bit of technique. I don't want to share it all, but sometimes I might. But yeah, like I say, there's certain things that we do or did or back then. And though it might be boring, you might be watching a movie like freaking that. This movie's terrible, but I've got to review it. Plus a little bit more than that. Yeah, it's boring. Yeah, sod all these home theaters that got $1 million and spend $1 million, a million. Most of the actual, well, you look at an actual maybe a single screen auditorium, typical multiplex today. That single screen alone might just cost maybe a shade under 1 million, and that's partly the building materials, air ducts, electrics, whatever else goes into that auditorium, seating, carpet, projector, sounds, blah 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 blah. It'll probably just come in under a shade under 1 million. And you look at the size of the auditorium, and you got these stupid home theater CDA rooms that are built out of what? Some sort of plastic and plasterboard or wood or whatever, put together in 24 hours. it's there for a couple of days and then it's dismantled and yeah. And they brag about, oh wow, it was the experience, $1 million. You wouldn't have a clue. You wouldn't have a clue. Like, oh, typical with Americans, eh, it's got to be a high number. Oh, a million. Oh, wow. It's probably got the bells and whistles and the kitchen sink. The rooms that I looked at were absolutely atrocious. There was no originality in them. Like, oh, crikey. My room is way better. I know someone else that's got a room similar to mine, and our rooms are way better than most people's home theatre because you've got no imagination. You just keep following Dolby Laboratories like sheep. If you follow them like sheep, then you're going to have a sheepish home theatre. There's no if, there's no but, there's no debate, and there's no vote about it. You're not going to use any imagination to think how stereo works, the basics of how stereo actually works. And if you don't know the basics of that, then your home theatre is going to be rubbish the first day you put it together, to however how many times you demonstrate it to people or neighbors, it's still going to only be pretty much substandard. I can make mine sound wow, or I could just go to ordinary substandard. I've got options. You've got to understand the basics of how stereo thing works first. Once you understand those basics, and then you can take steps to do improvements. Because you can't really do too much with mono now. Can't really do too much with that. Yeah. Oh, dear. Yeah. I'll tell you, I think the Odeon is just a load of plain, simple load of garbage trash downtown. Really is. I think the technicians must be bloody boring. I tell you, still to this day, I tell you, if I wanted to see The Empire Strikes Back, I tell you, I'd rather seen it at the UCI at High Wycombe. Oh, because that would be the experience. There are no others. There are no other experiences that come or that it would be the legit real THX. I tell you, look at all these digital cinemas today. They look and sound so bloody substandard. They're bloody boring. Oh, yeah. Anyway, that's my rant on that. So screw The Empire Strikes Back. I'll tell you, I'd rather watch the original here on Laserdisc. Screw DCP cinema.